We are live, apparently. Where's the intro? The intro is gone.
I didn't do the intro. My bad. My bad, guys. Hello. Hello, everyone.
Hi,
Joe,
everybody.
this is unprofessional. This is unbecoming of the Albion Obsessed brand. But you know what? It's fine because we will just move on and say hello and welcome to this episode of the Albion Obsessed podcast. You join us on the back of a pretty miserable defeat against Everton. There's quite a bit to unpack, even though it was a genuinely shocking game of football. But before we get into reliving that nonsense, let's see. We've got on the show today, Joseph. Hello, how are you?
Hello, Tom. Yes, I'm good. I am making this admission live on air because my wife might be watching. I just trod on one of Alana's toys, and the arm broke off. So if you don't see me on a podcast in the future, I've been murdered by a 3.5-year-old. So
Yeah, Joe just told us that story off air. You had an out, Joe, and now you've just got yourself. You've dug yourself a hole, and rookie
Well,
mistake.
I feel really bad about it, and my foot really hurts.
What
I
toy
mean, I
was it?
really think you're honest.
I'm intrigued to know what toy it was.
So it was a little figure, like a little monkey figure, and his little arm fell off. And I feel really bad about it. Oh man!
I
Not
appreciate
anymore.
the honesty, Joe.
He's a one-armed monkey now.
Exactly. It's always been a one-armed monkey. I don't know what you're talking about. We also welcome Aaron. Aaron, my friend, it's really great to have you back on the podcast. How are you?
Yeah, all good. Thank you, mate. Good to be here, Tom. Good to see you, mate. It's been a while.
Fantastic. That's what we like to hear. We are, of course, live. Thank you to those of you who are joining us this evening. Get your thoughts and questions in. We'll get those discussed on the pod as we go. Yes, Albion Raiders, it has been a pretty miserable Sunday. I was quite happy, though, because my under-9s game went ahead all okay, and we avoided the rain. We ran out 3-2 winners. So go my little team. So, yeah, pretty happy with that. I'm going to...
At least your game went ahead.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but I'm going to come back to my under-9s a bit later because I feel like I've got a point to make. So I don't want to have to sort of talk about it again because it was a pretty blooming miserable day yesterday, wasn't it? Of football, if you can call it that. Let's start off with the starting 11 then, because that in and of itself is quite a talking point. So there were some omissions yesterday that without context were very eyebrow raising. So we've had Pervis Estupiñán missing from the starting 11, Joe. No word at the time as to why. We've now since know that that's a muscle niggle going on, apparently. Same with Solly March, who didn't make the bench. And Brian Gruda, who started on the right-hand side with Minter on the bench, which was at the time mind-blowing because he had been so good against Manchester United. Of course, now we've got the context. We know that Minter was late to the match day sort of preparation, so was benched accordingly, which I'm fine with. But Gruda on the right-hand side when you've got Georgie playing so well. What were your thoughts, Joe? What did you make of the 11? Yeah, tell us.
Yeah, very shocked not to see either or. But obviously, as you say about the turning up late, you can't do that, Mr. Mente. You need to turn up on time. But it's what it is. As for Jorginho missing out, I mean, he's a player in electric form at the moment. And for me, if you've got players that are so hot in form, why would you take them out and take them out of that rhythm? So yeah, that really annoyed me, and I don't think we've seen enough Brian Gruda as to what he can do as in terms of why he should be starting. Obviously, we don't see them during the week. He might have had a really good week in training and done enough, but for me, looking at the facts that we do have, it should have been Jorginho, 100%. Hindsight is a great thing, but yeah.
Hindsight it is a great thing. I do agree. We haven't really seen enough of Gruda, but whenever I've seen him, Aaron, I've not been overly impressed. I think he reminds me a little bit of Facundo Buonanotte in the sense that he's really not a winger. What have you made of like Gruda and how he's sort of come into the team?
It's been pretty unconvincing, really. I think you're spot on. It does have that sort of Buonanotte feel to it. But at the same time, he has just come back from a niggle himself, hasn't he, if I remember correctly? So, maybe that could be brought into consideration. But yeah, I was a bit surprised not to see Jorginho on the starting. But I mean, at the time, I didn't really have many complaints about the starting 11, if I'm honest with you, apart from maybe the Gruda one. I think, well, maybe not play Minte because to start Minte just for the pure sake is going to be pretty physical. But then, like you said, then you would play Jorginho, not Gruda, because Jorginho is a bit of a unit. Yeah, very odd. But at the same time, we're thinking, well, we've got to kind of trust Fabian to a certain degree that he sees him every week. So he may see something different in training that we obviously don't.
Yeah, that's fair. And quickly, Sarah, as a coach yourself, what is the punishment for your lot if they rock up late to a match day?
It'll be a fine. Realistically, it's a fine, and either you're dropped from the bench or you're dropped from the match day squad. It's either or. It depends how late you are. So, like, if you say our meet today was 12 o'clock meet for a 2 o'clock kickoff, and some of the players rocked up, and to be fair, some of the coaches rocked up around 12:30, 1:45. And I was thinking, well, that's not acceptable. And I made that point. And yeah, so the fines went out, and in the end, it didn't really matter because our game was called off half hour before kickoff. So yeah,
the pains of grassroots football. But Aaron, what you say there is harsh but fair. I don't have an issue with benching Minter for poor timekeeping, but for me, the start of Gruda over, as you say, Joe, inform Jorginho Ruta was just mind-boggling, really mind-boggling. And just in regards to Gruda, every time I've seen him, I'm just not convinced. I'm not convinced he's a winger, and I'm not convinced he's quite ready yet. Especially when we have like a plethora of attacking options. I don't understand why he would be getting minutes over even a Dingra. I know, and I know we've said on this podcast before, a Dingra doesn't play particularly well on the right. I'd rather have a Dingra on the right than Gruda. So that's just my 2 cents. But I think you've both touched upon, apart from Estupinian and Minter, it's probably our strongest squad that we've seen for a long time. Now, this is going to be a really interesting one. Normally, as I say on the podcast, we normally go through things bit by bit, but today I'm going to mix it up a bit. Joe, without touching upon the officials or the penalty too much, what was your overall sort of view of the game? Because I think your view differs from me and Aaron quite a bit.
Yeah. So it's a very good question, Tom. I like that you've made me take the officials out of it. That's been the main bone of contention between conversations between myself and you. Yeah, I mean, for me, like, it was a really hard team to play against in terms of their play acting, their time wasting, and just 2 banks of 5, a really physical 2 banks of 5. And I don't think it's a shock that we're not able to break that down. And a lot of people are criticizing Fabian Hertzler for that. But I just want to remind people that that's been a common theme for Roberto De Zerbi and Graham Potter. So it's not, and I think it's a common theme for a lot of teams that aren't Liverpool and aren't Manchester City, that have that extreme quality to be able to one moment bang goal. Obviously, we want that, but I think a lot of other Premier League fans would tell you that when their team come up against a team that are just going to hit you on the counter, get a chance, get a penalty and score, and then sit behind the ball, it's incredibly frustrating to play against, as well as the rhythm being taken out of the game constantly. We're asking our team to up the tempo, up the precision, that stuff that can be done. But in terms of tempo, when the player goes down injured and they're not injured, it just takes the wind out of you completely. It takes the wind out of the crowd around you as well. And you just feel that belief just starting to drain away so quickly. So I think that's what happened with us yesterday, is that I think we started relatively okay. Lamptey had a couple of really good moments where he got down the left-hand side. And I thought Lamptey was a real bright spark yesterday if we're going to take any positives whatsoever. But yeah, when you're playing against that sort of team that just take the wind out of you, it's really hard to just keep that tempo up. And that's what we're demanding. But yeah, it's just really frustrating, Tom. That's my point of view.
That's fair enough. And just so the listeners are aware, the reason I have asked Joe not to talk about the officials is because they get their whole own section in a short while. So I'm not letting those guys off the hook because they did a poor job yesterday, but we'll get to those in the meantime. Aaron, I'm going to go out on a limb here and perhaps say that you are probably more aligned with my views on the game yesterday. But give us your overall summary of what we saw yesterday.
Same shit, different game. When you come up against a team who just play, like Joe said, 2 blocks of 5, we can't break them down. It's no one's fault other than ourselves, really. I didn't think we played particularly well. Second half, you could say we were better, but the problem is didn't really matter because Everton were just going to sit behind the ball. And we didn't create anything. You can say we played well. We didn't create anything. We would do the same thing over and over and over again. We'll play it to Matoma. He'll run, check back, play it out again, lose the ball. Or we'll keep the ball and go nowhere. It's just a vicious circle when we play teams like Everton. But the thing is, Everton had a game plan. They stuck to it. That's the thing. They had a game plan and they stuck to it, and it worked. And that's the key word, that it worked like an absolute dream for them. As soon as they went 1-0 up, we weren't scoring. Welbeck was awful. Pedro was awful. Matoma was good in glances. Like, there was no positive really to take out, I would say. It's just another lackluster display against a team in the bottom half of the table.
Yeah, as I say, I thought your opinions would align with my own, Aaron, because I'm very much there with you. We've lost Aaron, perhaps a potential internet issue because he was lagging just a tad there for me. Yeah, my views very much align with what Aaron's have just said. And please, guys, as we are live, drop your thoughts and comments into the show. We will try and talk about them. Joe, I do think you've as the host, I don't often get to go on these little tirades, but I'm gonna. Joe, I think you raise a good point. This is not a Fabian Hurtzler problem. We have always, I say always, for the last few years, we have really struggled against teams that come to the AMEX and tend to sit back or are very defensively sound. They stay in their shape. And that's because as the away team, they know that as a passing team, it's harder for us to break them down. And low block teams have been a thorn in our side. But as you say, Joe, the top teams find a way. And I do agree to some. I agree that, of course, high quality often leads to magic happening. But for me, I thought we were tactically naive yesterday a little bit. And just for the listeners' benefit, Dagan asked me in the group chat what I would have changed tactically, because I think he disagreed with my assessment. And I'm just going to preface this by saying I am a coach, a football coach, but I'm very low on the ladders of coaching, so I'm not an expert. But this is just sort of like my 2 cents. For me, apart from the starting 11, which I've already said, for me, Gruda shouldn't have played. It should have been Jorginho, Ruta. We knew how Everton were going to set up. We knew what they were going to do. So for me, one of the first things you do is you bring in Jorginho, Ruta to play out right, or you change the shape. We know that Everton aren't going to necessarily attack us, so go with a back 3. Veltman, Dunk, Van Hecker. Then, midfield 4, you could go Matoma on the left. You could go, Belabor in the middle alongside Ayari, then Lamptey on the right to give you that pace. Then you could have a narrow front 3 or something like that. I'm not saying that is the way. I'm just saying that is a possible way to have fixed it. And I know in the second half, I'm just going to welcome Aaron back. Welcome back, Aaron. I'm just going through my finer points of the game.
No, that's correct. No worries.
I know in the second half we sort of did transition to more of a back three, but in the second half I thought it was total chaos when the subs came on. It was the shape went. I mean, don't get me wrong. I loved seeing remnants of sort of like Mark McGee putting Adam Virgo up top when we brought Webber on, but it came across as such a desperate sort of I don't know what else to do move. So for me, it was just really frustrating. And when you're playing teams like that, as Aaron's already said, sideways and slow passing is never going to get them to come out of their shape. It's just not going to happen. You've got to move the ball quicker. And it's when we move the ball quicker against these teams, we look better. And that's not tactical genius. That's just a simple way of you need to move the ball quicker. That's how you're going to get the players to sort of start coming out your positions. I thought having Pedro and Welbeck both dropping deep at the same time was a mistake as well, because their midfielders just then marked them out of the game. So the Everton defenders didn't have much to do. If with your strikers, one of them drops deep into the half space, which gives the defender sort of or do I go tight to him and leave space in behind? Does the midfielder go tight to him, which leaves space in front of them for our midfielders? And then the other striker should be on the shoulder, waiting for balls over the top or into the channels, because we know Everton have got these big behemoth centre-backs, but we just didn't make them turn around and run towards their own goal. We didn't get behind them until like the 60th minute. And again, Gruda doesn't help there because he's not the sort of wide player that's going to run down that channel. That's why everything was happening to the left. So I think that if we saw that tactic of both strikers dropping deep, it might have worked if you had two pacey wingers then pushing up the side. So for me, yeah, it was just tactically naive. And again, I say this with all the benefit of hindsight. And again, I'm not pretending to be a coach, but that Dagan is what I would have done differently to Fabian Hertzler. I'm not saying it would have worked. I'm not saying that anything other than that's perhaps like my 2 cents. I just thought we were set up tactically naive. The second half was a mess with the subs. And the fact that Pickford had one save to make, and that was because of a deflection. Yeah, it just says it all. We didn't threaten their goal at all. We didn't make them work for it. We barely made them run towards their own goal. We didn't get behind them. So my point was, Joe, and I know we agree that the officials deserve their fair share of criticism, but I suppose what I'm just mindful of is just not putting all the blame per se on the officials, because we were so poor yesterday. It was so poor. The subs, as I say, in the second half were an absolute mess. Switching Veltman and Lamptey to different sides, I didn't understand that. Lamptey is a better left back than Veltman is. So for me, it was a catastrophe. Not a catastrophe. That makes it sound terrible. It wasn't a 5-1 loss, was it? Like it was before, but it was just really poor, really, really poor. Go on, Aaron.
I actually think we changed formation in the second half. That's why Lamptey went to Verla went to left hand side. I think it went to 3 at the back, to be honest. So I think that's why it was more in possession, more of a 3-5-2. You would have said potentially. So yeah, I wouldn't have said Lamptey was more of a right back. He was more of a right winger / inverted fullback / whatever the hell else you can call it. But yeah, I can't really disagree with much of that, to be honest.
Thank you, Aaron. Yeah, it was just a bit of a mess yesterday, wasn't it? And I think, as Aaron, it was you that said as soon as Everton scored, we could still be playing now, and we still wouldn't have scored a goal. I doubt we'd even have forced Pickford into a save. So as I say, guys, I'm going to keep plugging it because I really want lots of questions. I've already started one from Doom, which we'll talk about at the end, but please get your questions in because we are going to discuss them at the end of the pod and get your thoughts and comments in as well. This next one's going to be an interesting one. Let's talk about the penalty. The Brighton fan base have been quite divided by this. Personally, I don't understand why. But again, I'm just, that's just my opinion. But Joe, talk us through the penalty. What was your view on it? You're in the stadium, so you're going to have a much different view of it than me, someone watching on a screen.
Yeah, I mean, at the time, I didn't think it was a penalty, but seeing it from where I was sat, it's hard to make a crazy judgment. And then it comes up on the big screen, and I think they only literally showed us some of the most 8-bit footage you'll ever see. So it was again hard to really tell. I've watched it back. It's a penalty. It is. I've watched it back about 100 times just to be really sure. And yeah, it's silly from Veltman. He's under a little bit of pressure. Maybe he's looking around to see if he's getting help from Jan-Paul van Hecker to deal with those two men sort of bearing down on him. But yeah, I just don't understand what he's doing, because the ball's going out anyway, I think. And yeah, he sort of bats it away. So yeah, if that happened against us as well, it's another viewpoint. I sort of look at it from, if that happened at the other end, I'd be screaming for it. So yeah, penalty.
Aaron, what are your thoughts on it?
Stonewall penalty. Saw it live when it happened. Perfect view for it for me. And as soon as it happened, I was like, yeah, penalty. I was like, I'm 100% sure he's handled the ball there. And everyone around me was going ape shit. And I was like, why? It's a penalty. Like he's been pushed. He hasn't been pushed. There is no contact for him to go down the way he did. It is a penalty, black and white, Stonewall. I don't really understand why the fan base is divided. I'm baffled. He's basically caught the ball. He's literally managed to put it in one hand and just thrown it out for a goal kick, or for a corner, sorry. Like, it's so Stonewall. It's crazy. My dad next to me was losing his absolute mind. Like, never a penalty. I was like, Father, he's literally just literally just thrown the ball out. Like, it's a penalty. It's a Stonewall penalty, and and I said to Dad, this is why VAR is introduced, because that is a Stonewall penalty. And Veltman's tried to be smart of trying to buy the foul, and it hasn't worked because there is no contact for him to go down. If it is, it's very, very minimal. So yeah, the ref actually made the right call. Well, VAR made the right call. That's a lie, but.
Oh, Aaron, I've missed you. Speaking truth to power. Yeah. It is, and this is where I said I was going to bring back my under nines. I would be embarrassed if one of my under nines went down under that. Genuinely. It is shocking. Absolutely shocking. And I get that players these days are told, if you feel contact, go down. And the only thing I can sort of think of is, that this modern day sort of thing when players go down to try and buy a foul, they handle the ball. That's what I think he's tried to do. I think he's almost tried to sort of get the ball as he's gone down because he thinks he's going to get it. But as you say, Aaron, he's trying to be too clever. We've lauded Veltman for winding up fan bases because he's a master of the dark arts. And yesterday it came to bite him on the backside. Stonewall penalty. He's whacked the ball. It's like he's playing volleyball. And people trying to justify it, saying he was pushed. It's minimal contact. If that's a foul, the game's gone.
But the problem is, regardless of the penalty, Everton didn't deserve to win. We didn't deserve to win. We probably didn't really deserve a draw. So, I mean, the defeat was not a big surprise to anyone. Yeah, I said this Friday night when in our group chat we do our weekly bet as a group, and they're like, "Oh, we're gonna go. Oh, someone's gonna go Brighton." I was like, "Why?" It's like, "We'll lose." Like I will tell you now, we will lose. No, what's the point of going then if you think like that? I'm not. It's just how it works with Everton. They're our bogey team, like at home anyway. We can't beat them, and all they're going to do is set up. We can't beat a low block. It really is as sort of again black and white as that. You come to the AMEX and sit 10 men behind the ball, you will get a point minimum. Because we just can't break teams down.
The only time I vaguely remember us, and I'm happy to be corrected on this, beating a low block team was when we got that last gasp winner from Matoma against Bournemouth.
Yeah, the header.
That's the only time in recent history that I can remember sort of getting a win against a team that just sits back. But you're right, Aaron. It's
just if honestly, it's just lazy because it's lazy to blame the officials because of one decision. It's not that. Yes, okay. The officiating yesterday wasn't horrific, but we'll get on to that anyway. But we'd created nothing, like literally nothing. The only shot I can actually genuinely remember was Matoma's shot, which went about like 6 or 7 yards wide in the second half. That is it. And it's just frustrating. It seems to be the same old story when we go down to the AMEX in a minute. And it really does, you know. You mentioned the dark arts as well, Tom, about Joe Vernon. I'm going to go out on a limb and say literally Everton done the exact same thing, what they were doing. It's dark arts. It's the dark arts of football which kill games like that. We do that at Leicester, we win. We do that against Wolves, we win. We're too nice. We don't want to be that kind of football club. Fuck it. If it gives me 6 extra points, by all means, do it. It's not pretty by any far stretch of imagination. It's not pretty, but we could be 6 points better off right now, and probably really should be 6 points better off right now if we done the dark arts like the others. I'm not saying it was. I'm not saying we should cheat our way to do it every single game, you know, etc., etc. But use your common sense. Like the last 10 minutes of football yesterday, I would say the ball was probably in play 5 at a push because they were going down, you know, drop balls, goal kicks. You know, they were taking their time at everything, and that's what good teams do when they need the points. And I'm generally not even mad at Everton for doing that. I'd hate to be an Everton fan watching that crap every week, but mate, it got them 3 points away from the relegation zone. I mean, look at us under Houghton. Do you know what I mean? We were that team. We were that team, and it helped. It worked, and now we're not that team, and it's kind of, well, we can't beat others who play like that. It's a common theme. It's not just a Hertzler. It's not a De Zerbi. It's not a Potter. It's just, I think it's generally his mentality. And I also don't think the AMEX atmosphere helps either, to be honest.
Yeah, I was going to talk about the AMEX atmosphere a little bit.
I felt a feeling that might be brought up, yeah.
Yeah, I think you're spot on, Aaron. I think we lack... some people might say it's clever. But again, as you say, if it wins you 3 points, yeah, especially when you're a team towards the bottom of the table, then yeah, it's clever. You know, some of you have said it in the comments as well. Well, that's how we beat Newcastle. We played horrible football, because sometimes that's what it's got to be. And you know, the dark arts have always been there. Some players are better at it than others. So yeah, I mean, it was frustrating to watch. And I do think that some things, you know, as when you're sort of chasing a game, it is horrible to watch. But I don't think, even if they weren't doing that, I don't think we still wouldn't have got anything out of it.
No,
Exactly.
exactly.
Good enough.
Exactly that.
It's like you say, Aaron. You can, and we'll get onto them in just a second. You can have a moan at the officials because they were crap. You can have a bit of a moan about how Everton have played, but at the end of the day, that doesn't change the fact that we just simply were poor yesterday. But let's share some of the blame, because as bad as we were, Joe, the officials were just as poor. And I think they set their stall out quite early on when I think the ball went out of play, and instead of awarding Everton a corner, which they should have done, they gave us a goal kick. So talk us through, Joe, how bad the officials were.
Well, yeah, no, you're spot on with that. And again, this isn't a segment for passing the blame onto them as to why we lost. It's not at all. We've said it's a penalty, and I think they should have been a bit stronger with Everton's time wasting. But you know, you guys have outlaid it perfectly as to how long we could have been playing and not scored. So it's just poor all round. Like every game I watch, there's just a referee trying to make it about themselves, giving stupid decisions, missing so much. And not just for us, for Everton as well. And if this is the best we can get then officiating in this country is going down the pooper. Because I mean, as well, who wants to be a referee? That's the real question. There's not. Aaron does. And there's not that sort of. I think I've heard a lot of referees talking about the pathway and stuff like that in terms of getting into officiating and the state of it, and it's a real problem. But I mean, don't want to moan about it too much.
Chipping in there, the pathways in general to get anything, if you're not already someone, is shocking. Coaching is exactly the same.
No, you're not wrong.
And that's why Wayne Rooney gets the Plymouth job.
No, that really annoys me. Like people like, Rooney, Lampard, what's his face, Gerrard, because they've done well at being a player, they just walk into sort of these jobs. And Rooney has absolutely ruined Argyle, absolutely destroyed them. He's wasted half their season, and now they're fighting to stay up because some incompetent fool thought hiring another incompetent fool was going to do well for them. But this is not a Argyle podcast. We do know some guys. So if you're interested in that, we can let you know about them. This is a Brighton and Hove Albion podcast. But you are right, Joe. The officials were shocking. I think, as I say, we've said the VAR call was the right call, but throughout the game, just some really bizarre calls. And it's no surprise, Aaron, that at the end, after 90 plus minutes of just awfulness, the players were having a scrap at the end.
Yeah, I don't know if Sky showed you the reasons why they were having a scrap. So Pickford decided to run to the north stand and give it the big one. Give it the proper, come on, back in there, Savia, blah, blah, blah. And that's what pissed Van Heck off. And then all of a sudden it was World War II right in front of us. And Pickford was getting absolute pelters anyway all game. My main issue with time wasting for goalkeepers, especially, if you're going to book someone for time wasting for delaying the restart, send the fuckers off, because they're just going to keep on doing it. Why has no one figured this out yet? Because a goalkeeper get booked in the 60th minute, he knows for a fact he's not getting sent off. He knows for a fact he's not. So it's like, all right, cool. I'll just waste a bit more time. And a bit more time. And a bit more time. Because he knows for a fact he's not getting sent off. That's where I feel like the officials are letting themselves down across the board. Not just in yesterday's game, across the board. It just needs someone with a bit of balls to just go, do you know what? No, I've had enough. You've been warned 5, 6, 7 times. You're done. It's like, in the words of Mike Dean, off your pop. It is done. That needs to be brought in. It just has to be, because otherwise it's just pointless. Because you wouldn't probably get the same result if an outfield player was doing it. I'd imagine they'll probably get away with it as well. But you've got to take some initiative and think, well, these guys are generally taking the piss now. They're generally taking the piss, and then that's when the second yellow should come out, in my opinion. And I'm a guy, mate, I've done the dark art stuff. I'm a horrible goalkeeper. I will waste time to kingdom come. And if I get booked, I'm like, yeah, all right. They're not going to book me again, so that's cool. I'll just make sure I don't do anything stupid to get a second book in. Giving any verbals to the ref or anything. Just, I'll take as long as I want. I'll get the ball, I hit the deck. I'll lay there for 10 seconds. Maybe 15 if I want. Because I know I'm not getting sent off. It's just, something needs to change about that rule, especially. Other than that, the time wasting in general is just dark arts, which is fine, but there's some dark arts you need to sort of not be stamped out of the game, because I feel like you need it to a certain degree, but you need some balls when it gets obsessive to send someone off.
Yeah, I agree. I think Pickford should have been shown the second yellow yesterday. But as you say, Aaron, you could guarantee, you just knew it wasn't going to come. And I think
pointless.
And as
even
you
the guy, there's a young lad sits just down from me, and he was like, he literally said what I just said. What is the point? What is the point of booking him in the first place? Because he's not going to get sent off. It's spot on. It's pointless. It generally is pointless.
It's not a deterrent if you're not going to follow it through.
Yeah, exactly.
As you said, then what's the point in doing it in the first place? Joe, I mean, well, Everton were very good at hitting the deck, feigning all sorts of injuries yesterday. One of the things that I've often thought about that football could introduce, they could learn from their egg-shaped friends over in rugby, is the time getting stopped when the ball goes out of play. And that way you ensure that you're going to get a game full. Because as Aaron said, last 10 minutes, ball's in play for what, 5, if that. It will stop time wasting because, as we saw yesterday, the amount of time that was wasted by Everton's only to have 8 minutes put on the clock at the end was a farce. So, I do take Aaron's point that, the dark arts are part of the game. I don't necessarily want them all to go. But I do believe that there are some things we could do just to make, the people that pay to go and watch football actually watch some football. What are your thoughts? What could we do? Do we just need refs to be have a bit more authority on the game, or are there some wider things that the sport could do better?
Yeah, I mean, I think in rugby you see obviously it's an 80-minute game, but you could be at a game for nearly 2.5 hours because if it stops for a penalty or stops for anything, the clock is stopped. And I think with football that would be slightly harder to implement. I think the ball would be out of play more times than in rugby. So you'd have to have someone on a stopwatch all the time to go, it's in, it's out, it's in, it's out. Do the hokey cokey and just turn around. But yeah, no, I think there's a lot to be learned, and something needs to change. There needs to be something that's, as Aaron said, the rules need to be looked at. But other than that, I think you just learn from other sports, as you say.
Yeah, I would have settled just for the ref to turn around at the end and say, I've clocked up all those times you went down. I've clocked it up, and all those minutes that you've wasted, I'm putting on at the end. I would settle for that. And we did see a little bit of that.
Last year.
Yeah, last year we actually saw 10, 15 minutes of extra time being given.
Yeah.
And that seems
It
to
could have been 20 yesterday. They generally could have been 20 yesterday.
But again, it's the consistency. The consistency is shocking. And we saw this again with kicking the ball away. Really, they were really hot on it at the start of this season, and that sort of faded. I just sort of think if you're going to start implementing these things, just be consistent with it. But the officials they're so inconsistent that all fans want, I think, is consistency from the officials to know where we stand. But because it differs so greatly from official to official to official, to game to week to week, it's impossible to know what you're going to get. So I do, we've said on this podcast so many times, I do think the officials in this country are generally poor. I do think there's lots of issues with pathways, but I think across the FA there's issues with pathways, as I've already said. So yeah, it's frustrating. And Pozzy, you are right, as you've just said in the comments. The other problem is that every time they go down, it ruins the momentum. And Joe, that's what you said earlier on in the pod, that it's hard to build up momentum when you've constantly got Everton players trying to get an Oscar for their performances. And I do appreciate that, but I still think we were just too poor. It wouldn't have mattered. Didn't matter.
No, it didn't. We could still be playing now, and we would still be passing around side to side.
Yeah.
It wouldn't really matter.
Everton would be on the coach, and we'd still be shooting it.
Let's lump a long ball to Matoma, who will play it back, and then we'll go back to the front. Yeah.
On the long balls, Tom. Right. This really pissed me off. 6'6" right back, and we're playing long balls to Matoma every single time, headed away by O'Brien.
Shocker.
Aaron said it earlier. Just rinse and repeat. And what's the definition of insanity, Tom?
Doing the same thing again and again, expecting different results.
Insanity. That really pissed me off. Yeah.
The thing is, it worked once, and that was in the first half. Dung has played a beautiful ball over the top of O'Brien and hit. I think it may be Lamptey. I think. But then we tried to do it again and again. I don't mind going long ball. I don't mind it when you play into areas where you can actually get someone to attack it. If you're just playing in behind 4 centre halves who are 6'9" monsters of a human being, we're not going to win those. But we're not going to compete. We're just not. That's why if you can do it, aim for the corners and just if you're going to box them in, box them in. Don't try and purposely play an over the ball pass to Matoma. Expect him to bring it down, win the header, etc. It's not going to happen. That's poor game management again from the players. It's a common thing. It's just game management is such a massive part of football. I just don't think we're very good at it. It's simple as that. I just don't think we're good at it.
Yeah, I agree. I think, because I think I have been quite hard on Fabian Herzler this year. But I do think, there gets to a point where the players have got to start going, well, this isn't working, so I'm going to try something different. It's like Aaron says, and again, with the defenders, the Everton defenders didn't particularly have to worry about our strikers because they just kept coming deep. So when you're pinging balls over to Matoma, you don't have to worry about Welbeck or Pedro because they're sat in the midfield. So
the thing is also, Tarkowski was just sat on Welbeck. So Welbeck would go short to get the ball, and Tarkowski go, yeah, cheers, mate, bang, through the back of him. And win the ball. Like he was superb yesterday, to be fair. Actually, it was the best I've seen him for a long time. Tarkowski, I thought he was actually very good. And I'm not really a fan of anti-football, but they again, like I said, they had a game plan and it worked to a treat. And if you haven't got the players to compete with us in terms of going forward or outpassing us, outplaying us, keeping the ball, etc., win whichever way you're strongest to be able to win. I will use my girls as an example. We played Eastbourne Borough last week in the cup semi-final. They've scored 76 goals all year, and they played 6 games. They've been winning games like 22-0 constantly. So we thought instead of playing our normal, quite free-flowing football, we literally went, do you know what? We'll go 2 banks of 4. The 10 and the 9 rotate, and we just see what we can do. They haven't conceded a goal all year. We went 1-0 up. Like, we lost the game in the end 5-2, but it's their worst result of the season. Like, we gave them a game. We rattled them. And because we had a game plan. And I still don't see that with Hertz the team. I don't see we've really got a plan A to a certain degree. It just feels a bit like we'll play as attacking as we potentially can do, and then just sort of goes a bit quiet after it doesn't work. Like, what can we do after that? Oh, I don't know. We haven't got a plan B.
I reckon I'm coming to the conclusion that our plan A is to play a half of football really badly to lull the opposition into a full sense of security, and then go out there and actually, start acting like we care. Yeah, that's the only game plan that I can see sometimes.
But it's weird though. Like, we've just come back from 3 away wins on the bounce. Did anybody feel confident we were getting anything yesterday? No. Like, it's just crazy, isn't it? Like, and I'm glad it's not just me. Like, I went down there and I was like, do you know what? I mean, it is what it is. Like, I'm not really feeling it. Like, I already know what's going to happen. And time again, we prove right. That's the annoying thing. I would love nothing more than yesterday. It's me thinking, oh, mate, we're going to struggle today. We turn up and we batter them 5 or 6-0. Like, we turn them over. Like, we literally are watching prime Barcelona. And I'd be like, oh, actually, no, I was wrong. That was fantastic. No. You just knew from that first sort of 5 minutes of the game, you're thinking, yeah, it's going to be like this, isn't it? It's just going to be like that. And we were right. Oh, unfortunately, we were right. So,
unfortunately, so I normally love being right. But yeah, yesterday,
I'm never wrong, to be fair. So,
I'm never okay. Wrong. I've started changing things up a little bit. I've stopped doing player of the match, and I'm certainly not going to do one after yesterday. I've started doing more of a pick a player to talk about, and it could be for a good reason or a more negative reason. So, Joe, I want to come to you first, my friend. If you're going to pick out a player from yesterday to talk about, be it good or bad, who would you pick and why?
Let's go good. And I'm going to pick Tariq Lamptey. because we've all had doubts about whether Tariq can come back and be the player that he is. Obviously, it remains to be seen whether he is still fit from yesterday. But if he can stay fit, I think we had this conversation a couple of weeks ago. I think we should put a nice new contract in front of him and say, Tariq, sign that, mate, because you're doing well. And I thought he was brilliant yesterday. He can play left back, right back, and do a good job. Oh, you're right, Aaron. Fulham scored.
Sorry, Fulham just got one kid off the line.
Oh, damn it. Yeah, I think Tariq is the kind of guy that you want in and around the dressing room, and gave us all in those first sort of 20 minutes and was the attacking threat alongside Karim Matoma. Remains to be seen as to whether we want to keep him around, but I think he done enough yesterday, especially for us to think, yeah, why not get him on a new contract and keep him as a squad player, because I think he can still threaten back lines across the Premier League. So yeah, Tariq.
Fair. Aaron, if you were going to pick a player out from yesterday, good or bad, who would you pick and why?
I'm going to pick two, I think. I will go with Lewis Dunk to start with. I actually thought he played really well. I thought he was reasonably composed compared to what we've seen in sort of majority of this season, really. I don't think he's been particularly great this year. He just looked very assured, and that was quite a big thing we could take out from yesterday. Obviously, couldn't really do much about the goal. Didn't really have that much defending to deal with, but what he dealt with well. And I think that's positive signs going forward. The other one's Bart Verbruggen. He should save that penalty, in my opinion.
Second one a week. I just want to quickly mention, because you weren't on the pod last week, Aaron. I thought Verbruggen not knowing which way Bruno Fernandes would go was a bit poor, considering he went the same way in the last 5 penalties.
I didn't know that. I wasn't there. I didn't watch the game last week. I saw the penalty, which is fair. He hasn't really hit it cleanly and It's a good penalty. It goes into the side netting, but he doesn't really hit it with much power. And it kind of felt like Verbruggen went down in stages as well. He didn't spring to his side. He just went, yeah. I just fell. And if he sprung, I think he would have saved it, personally. So that'd probably be the only real negative. I think he's gradually getting more comfortable in the Premier League now. People still question him. He's still, 22, 23, maybe a bit older than that. He won't be with us for much longer, I don't think. I think he'll get picked up in a couple of years' time anyway myself, because he's just that modern-day goalkeeper who I still think is very good with his feet and is an okay shot stopper. So yeah, they're two negative things. Talking about former shot stoppers, anybody see Rob Sanchez yesterday? Oh, yeah. My, that was fun. Oh, stay humble, you Spanish freak.
Oh, yes, that was so, yeah. You could argue that Verbruggen should make that save, but at least it wasn't anywhere near as bad as we saw from Bob.
I watched this morning, the first thing I've done, because I woke up quite late this morning. I was like, I'm going to put on Chelsea fan TV, because it's always good when Sanchez has a howler, and I like to see how the Chelsea fans react. Yeah, they're not a fan. They're not a fan. They want him gone. They've wanted him gone for a while. And he was our third choice for a reason. You're taking your number one. You trust me, you really haven't. You have no idea what he's the best young keeper about. All right, cool. Give it 18 months and see what you say then. Ta-da.
Yeah, it's just a clanger waiting to happen, isn't he?
Really is.
My one. Part of me wants to talk about Gruda some more, but I feel like we've talked about him, and it would get to the point where I'm just being a bit of a negative Nelly on that one. So I'm going to talk about the return of Jack Hinchelwood. Not necessarily because I genuinely thought like he was superb. I thought, as I've already alluded to, I thought the second half was a bit all over the place, and I genuinely felt like Hertzler didn't know what he was didn't know what he was doing, but it just felt very desperate towards the end, and I can sort of see why. But it was nice to see Hinch back on the pitch. I think he played in midfield. I can't really tell.
He went back to one of the back three at one point.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I mean. It was just a bit of a. I'm going to swear. It was a bit of a shit show in the second half, positionally. Yeah. Everyone was all like, Belabor went into the back three at some point as well. It was just all over the place.
But the thing is for that. Sorry, Tom, don't mean to interrupt you. Is because there was literally there's just one striker. That's it. So we were literally playing two at the back for the entirety of the second half. Yeah.
And that's even makes it even more poor because we were playing against 10 men. And we still couldn't do anything.
Yeah. I forgot. I didn't realise they were down to 10 men until I saw on the way home.
I haven't even mentioned it, but that's the thing, Aaron. 10 men. Sorry.
Hold on. Whoa. What?
They were down to 10 men.
They went down to 10 men.
At what point?
80th minute.
Yeah. We for about the last
Sod off.
18 minutes.
They used all their subs, and then one of their number 8 got injured, and then never returned.
18 minutes.
I didn't notice until I got home.
18 minutes against 10 men, and we didn't manage a single shot on target.
Don't be a pussy, swear.
We didn't manage a single fucking shot on target.
Yes.
And so I will not have any. Oh, but see the silver linings. I will not have any. Oh, but we're only 5 points away from 7th. We didn't manage a single fucking shot on target against 10-man Everton. Didn't draw Pickford into a single save, apart from one that was a deflection. And if you're happy with that, you need to go to the doctors and get a blooming scan on your brain. I was doing so well. 52 minutes.
Can we end the podcast now?
No, because I've got some questions that I've started and I'm going to talk about them. Because I did say this one came in almost pretty much right bang off the off. Gruda. Doom Ultimator has asked, Gruda had another poor performance yesterday. He did. Do you guys think he should be loaned out possibly in the summer? I am going to answer this in a simple question, simple one-word answer. Yes. We have a plethora. I've used that word a lot tonight. I like it.
You have, yeah.
A plethora of attacking options, all of which are better than Gruda at the moment. I think he's got a big future. He's obviously highly rated in Germany. Hertzler clearly likes him because he keeps getting picked, although he's not doing much. So yeah, I think he needs a loan. Get him some minutes. I would rather have Enciso in the squad.
I
know, Aaron. I know. I'd rather have Buonanotte in the squad. I'd rather have Adingra on the right. That's how bad I think he's been. Or I say not bad, but that's how
Tom,
not very good.
You need to calm down.
Sorry, Joe. I'm just getting, as you can say, again, 52 minutes. I was so calm. And I was like, it's all good.
Tom, I am proud of you. I really am.
Yeah, man. I've been thinking about what I was going to say all day. And yeah, it's finally coming out in a big tirade. So yeah, that's for me. Gruda, get out on loan, get minutes under your belt, get better, come back, bam. Joe, what do you reckon?
I'd say, oh gosh, it's hard to follow that up, but I'd keep him around and I'd maybe play him centrally, see what he can do there.
I do agree, and I do agree with your point as well, Michael. Centrally, number 10. But my problem is Pedro, Ruta, and Ciso.
All right, yeah, loan him out. Sod it.
Is he going to get in ahead of those? Does he deserve getting ahead of those? No.
Probably not.
Aaron, I mean, what would you do with Gruda?
I would rather have him than Enciso. I just don't think Enciso brings it much anymore. I feel like he's a one-trick pony where people probably figured him out. Hopefully he proves me wrong, but he hasn't as of yet. Anyway, I personally think that 10 position is going to be Buonanotte's next year anyway. I think he's looked really good this year at Leicester when he's played, and I think he was playing really well end of last season anyway. So I always maintained I feel like we sent the wrong one out at the time. I felt like we should have sent Enciso at the start of the season, to be honest. So yeah, I mean, realistically, with the attacking options we've got, you probably would loan him. Really, put him back out to Germany, perhaps. I don't see how he gets in front of Buonanotte. Even you can play Jorginho in the 10. You could play Pedro in the 10. You can do plenty of different options. So I don't see a way in for him in a minute.
Yeah, I agree. He's got too many better players ahead of him. And if again, our squad is so lopsided. We've got so many attackers and just no defenders, which has always been quite funny in a way, because we've always been a very top heavy side the other way, because we've had loads of defenders and not many attackers, and now it's the other way around, and we can't keep them all happy, which is why Julio Enciso has gone on loan to Ipswich, got himself an assist yesterday. So good skill.
Can I just reply to Luke's comment in the chat group?
Of course.
So I think Enciso is incredibly selfish. It's all about him. He makes the wrong decisions when he's on the ball. Where Gruda, at least, he tries to get involved in patterns of play where he'll get the ball and he'll make a run. He'll lay it off to a simple pass, literally a 5-yard pass, where Enciso will get the ball, step over, shoot. And it's rinse and repeat for him. And that's what the infuriating thing is. He was living on those 2 goals he scored, really. In my opinion, against City and against Chelsea. Don't get me wrong, they're fantastic goals. Obviously, that's not. But you can't live off that forever. Like, by now, he should have developed a lot more from where he was to now. He should be light years ahead. Not light years. I think that's a bit harsh, but he should be well ahead of where he is currently.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree. I mean, I made that joke when he scored against Norwich, when I said, it's only taken 5,465,824 shots, but he's finally scored.
Do you know what the funny thing was, though?
What?
Probably should have squared it to Jorginho.
Yeah.
That's the funny thing. That would have been the easier option.
Yeah, it's one of those, and I do agree with you, Luke, on your second comment about, is he getting the game time? I think, was it after the Palace game? He was one of the few players that looked genuinely like he wanted to do something, and he was dropped. So, or rotated out, if that's the right way to say it. But yeah, so I do agree that, and obviously that's why he's gone to Ipswich, because he wants game time. But yeah, let's move on to the next one, because I did say, Aaron, we were going to talk about this because we've had a couple of questions about home form and sort of the atmosphere at the AMEX. We haven't won a game at the AMEX since Manchester City, so we're not doing very well on that count. Obviously, we've dropped loads of points at home this season. Loads of points. We've dropped quite a few points at home this season. And we've seen this but we've seen this thing of players trying to G up the crowd. You're not giving us anything to cheer about, lads, or not very much. So maybe stop the whole sort of, come on, North Stand, give us I get it, players need that energy, but at the same time, you've got to give the crowd something to cheer about. So, Phil, I'm just going to come to your point that you made quite a while ago now. So apologies, I haven't gotten to it sooner, but I did star it about you could understand that if we were putting those sort of performances in a way, but why are we doing this at home? Where's the fight? Where's the team spirit? Where's the urgency? And then Joanna also says she thinks the pressure of a win at home is getting to them, and that it's also not helpful for the atmosphere. Aaron, you touched upon the atmosphere earlier. What's your take on it all?
It's horrific. It's been horrific for years. Like, there's only one real game in recent memory where I thought this is electric. And that's when Potter came back with Chelsea. I wasn't at the Marseille game, so I can't comment on that. Obviously, I heard that was fantastic as well. But I've not seen it. I'm not seeing. Even when we battered Palace, the atmosphere wasn't that great. It was like, I mean, it all happened so quickly. Don't get me wrong, but it just didn't feel and hasn't felt really like going to the Amex is a chore at the minute. That's what it feels like. It feels like a genuine chore. Like that, the Chelsea game was one of the best atmospheres I've ever heard at a football game. Like that and Sheffield Wednesday in the playoffs, those two stand alone. But it's just pathetic. The fans are just awful at home. Like I would so much rather do away games. If I could do a season ticket of just away games, I'd do it, 100%. Because the away games, it just feels like it means more when you play away from home.
Do you know what I think it is, Aaron? And sorry to interrupt you, but I think football, and I'm sure fans across multiple clubs in the Premier League will agree with this, football's becoming more about day trippers.
Oh, yeah.
It's becoming 100%. More about, trying to get people in who potentially aren't football fans and maybe quite corporate. They want to get them in. They want to get people coming in on holidays. It's more about that now because that's where the money is, which is why we're seeing ticket prices go up for season tickets across clubs. I know that we've tended as fans to be quite okay with season ticket price rises, but generally I know other clubs, they're fuming about it. So that's for me. I think fans are starting to feel the pinch a little bit more because they want more day trippers. Just real quick now, just to throw you another question. Do you think moving the away fans will help?
Where are they moving it to?
They're moving them from behind the south stand, and then they put them in the corner where the current is it the Heineken Lounge,
southwest corner.
Yeah.
Oh, nowhere near the north. So nowhere near the north stand, no. Yeah,
No.
it makes no difference. As simple as.
Fair enough.
Like if it needs to be brought up where the family stand is, if it's going to have any sort of impact on how the atmosphere should be at the AMEX, in my opinion, because you can't. So I look at grounds like Selhurst Park, absolute dive, horrific place, burn it to the ground. But as an away fan, the atmosphere you get with the home fans being right next door, unparalleled. It's just unreal because it just feels a lot more intense, which I mean you want it to. I want football to be intense. Like I love the whole rivalry about being as loud as you possibly can be, giving it the big and all that stuff. I enjoy that about football. It's something I've always enjoyed, even going to Millwall away and stuff like that. It's good fun. Like it's harmless, really, as long as you don't do anything violent or anything beyond the streams of football. I mean, it's just good fun. Like, you know what I mean? It's not. I just feel like we're missing a trick. I just feel like it's all like I said. It's all day trippers. Give me the Wifteen any day. Give me the Wifteen any day of the week than the AMEX. We wouldn't be in the Premier League. I know that for a fact. But the Wifteen feels like home. It felt like there was a family there. It felt like you can create an atmosphere in the pissing rain in your poncho.
We're the dry stand.
Yeah, do you know what I mean?
Stand.
It's just not like that anymore. It's just not like that anymore. It just really isn't. And obviously, I sound like I'm the miserable old man, but
anytime I get to hear you talk about the Wifteen, Aaron, it fills me with utter joy.
It's just how it's just football's commercial anyway. Like it always will be now. Like we're at a point now at our club's history that we'll never go back to those days. Touch wood. So we kind of got to get used to it, really.
Yeah. Sorry, Luke, you were too young. I know that sounds like such a patronizing thing to say, and I do apologize. But it's one of those things, and I get it's really annoying, but you had to be there.
Yeah, you had to be there. 100%.
Yeah, just had to be there because it was awful, but it was our awful.
Yeah,
and on that note, if you haven't seen it already, go and check out the Albion Obsessed documentary about our Withdean years, where me and Aaron talk a lot about how blooming wonderful the Withdean was. But no, Aaron, your point. Joe, what's your 2 cents on it? You're a North Stand season ticket holder, same as Aaron. What can we do to sort of address the home form? What can we do to address the atmosphere and there's just the lulls that you just get through such large parts of the game?
I mean, first of all, the North Stand singing 3 songs at completely different timings would maybe help to, if we all sang at the same time, that might get the volume up. I sat in the southwest corner next to the away fans for a number of years, and I felt like being near them gave you that extra sort of passion to cheer on your team. So I do agree with Aaron that if we want to generate anything and move them towards near the North Stand, then I think that would generate a lot of noise. But it won't happen. Because obviously we want to keep them at the south side because that's where their coaches are. So it just makes more logistical sense. And unfortunately, sometimes you have to take logistics into account. I mean, in terms of the home form, I haven't seen us win at the AMEX this season except for the Spurs game. And I've missed a few. I've missed the City game. I've missed the United game. I've missed all the good ones. So I'm a bit peed off about that. And I just keep turning up, and maybe I'm the problem, Tom. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe I just don't go.
Maybe you are the problem, Joe.
Yeah, maybe. But
you broke Alana's toy, and now you keep going to the AMEX.
I'm terrible. What a terrible father I am. No, I don't know what we can improve. I think we just need to realize what noise we can make, because I'm sure as you talk about the corporate side, Tom, I'm sure there was many corporate people there when we played Chelsea. We still created an atmosphere.
The thing with the Chelsea game, sorry, Joe, apologies, mate.
Yes, right.
Is there was passion there. There was genuine hatred.
Yeah.
Like everyone came for the sole purpose of throwing abuse at the Snakes coming back. Like that's the only reason why people went. I would say anyway. Where
in my opinion, that proves that we can generate that feeling inside of us, and that we should be us against them, and we can generate that noise.
I mean, so it probably will be when we play Chelsea on Valentine's Day. I would imagine it'd be loud. Like I'm praying Sanchez starts. Holy Jesus, he's gonna get abused. Like Cucurella, he'll get the same. Caicedo, he'll get the same. Like it will be loud, but nothing like it was when Potter came back. But other than that, even the Palace game was one of the worst atmospheres I've heard at the AMEX for a long time. Yeah, granted, we lost, but even like the build up to it felt a bit meh. Like it just felt like, it's 90 minutes of football. No. It's not just any 90 minutes of football. Like it's probably the biggest home game of our season. Having that lot of the road come down and embarrass us at our place. And that's what they did. They embarrassed us.
We didn't turn up.
No, they literally turned it. We could have been a newborn baby, pulled out, and it just got our ass slapped. Because that's exactly what Palace did to us.
I don't think they do that anymore, Aaron. But I see your point.
Yeah, but you know what I mean.
I do, my friend.
We got battered, and I remember the kit man for Palace was at a wedding I was usher on not so long ago. We're funny enough the Monday after the Palace game. And yeah, he was like, yeah, we instantly knew we were going to win when we walked up, and it was just dead. It was dead quiet. Like he was like, we just knew. I was like, that's concerning. That they could feel how uninterested we were. It's just another game. It's not though, is it? Like it's the game. Yeah, it's I don't think it's a bad thing to think that way, but at the same time, shows you care. Shows you want it. Oh, it's just another game. It's fine. We'll rock up and do nothing for 90 minutes and get battered. Cheers, boys.
And I'm just going to quickly give that a segue into Joanna's sort of most recent comment and link it back to what Luke has said as well. So Joanna wrote, "That's the trouble, isn't it? I know we need to make noise, but the players also need to turn up too. Give us something to shout about." And then Luke's earlier comment was about, have you guys spoken about the gaffer? And if not, thoughts? So I'm going to sort of link these two together, because I think in both the Palace games, which is arguably the biggest game of the season for us at home, and yesterday, the players didn't give us anything to shout about. Some of that blame lies with the coach. Some of that blame lies with the players, and other parts of blame you can portion out as you see fit to help you sleep at night. I think Hertzler sets up his teams quite well away from home, but I think he hasn't found a formula yet, as Aaron says, at home to break anything that's vaguely mid to low block. I think that there is still too much emphasis on individual moments of brilliance. I've said it before. I think that Fabian Hertzler deserves a bit of credit in that he's not so dogmatic about his approach, a la De Zerbi, that he's willing to try different things. But at the same time, I still just don't see anything that resembles personality within the squad. And Aaron, I know you've already said that, but I still, when you watched Potter, you knew it was a Potter team. When you watched De Zerbi, you knew it was a De Zerbi team. There was no other way of looking at it. Whereas Hertzler, it's just so meh. Just meh.
Yeah, he hasn't put a stamp on his team. He just hasn't. And this is what I said last time I was on. I don't think he's a man. I don't think he is. And it's not reaction. I just don't. I feel like many managers right now. I mean, we'll use Moyes for an example. He had a game plan. We know what a Moyes team is. That yesterday was a Moyes team, similar to a Dyche team, similar to a Pep kind of team last year, not this year because they were all over the place. But you would look at Jurgen Klopp when he was at Liverpool. You knew exactly what you were getting. It was going to be gun-ho, quick, attacking football. De Zerbi, exactly similar, pretty much similar. You knew what you were getting. It's going to be gun-ho, defending doesn't matter. We'll just outscore you. Potter, now we'll be a bit more pragmatic. We'll take our time. We'll make things happen. Where it hurts, he doesn't really know what to do. Like, he doesn't know whether to stick or twist. He doesn't know. We can play the quick attacking, passing through the middle. We can play out wide. We just sort of side to side. We'll figure something out when it eventually breaks. You need a game plan. I just don't think he has one. I really don't. And for this season, yeah, he'll be here till the end of the season. I have no doubt in that. Will he get sacked? No, of course he won't. I just personally don't think he's the right man. And performances like even the Ipswich game, actually, the last couple of performances, I think have been good. But there still wasn't really an identity about it. There were two very different games. And obviously, don't get me wrong, football, every game of football is different. But your philosophy stays the same throughout. I haven't seen that from him. Personally, anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I'm inclined to agree. I, as you say, I think we have played really well, and there's been. I mean, look at the first half against Liverpool; we were outstanding. But then we just can't string 90 minutes together. I know that's easier said than done. Momentum shifts constantly in a football game. But yeah, so I suppose, Luke, that would be sort of mine and Aaron's 2 cents. Joe, I know that you've spoken over the last pod about sort of trying to temper expectations a little bit and not be so reactionary, which you openly admit to that perhaps after Palace you were a bit too much so. But people are talking about the tinkering of the squad, changing of the 11. Do you think he knows what his best 11 is? Do you think it's because of injuries we haven't seen a consistent 11, or is it lots of things just culminating all at the same time? to make Hertzler's first season in charge a bit more of a roller coaster than perhaps we would have liked.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of moving parts to consider. When you've obviously lost a very influential figure in Roberto De Zerbi, who, you know, had his sort of anger at the end of last season, and we saw that on the football pitch. And obviously we lost Pascal, we lost Billy, and replaced it with some players that maybe don't have the Premier League experience that are needed to grind out results, as to what we've seen obviously against like Wolves and Leicester and stuff like that. Obviously, yeah, it annoys me, and I have been really annoyed this season at times, and I've lost my head. You know, losing to Crystal Palace at home is not a nice thing at all. And that's why I was so angry, because it came off of the back of some other really stupid moments. So I think it just all built up. I'm trying to look at it with a level head, because I don't think me getting angry about it is very good for my mental health anyway. And I'm just trying to look at it as like, right, okay, this season we're not going to get relegated. Clip this if we do. We're not going to get relegated. We will finish between 13th and 8th, in my opinion, somewhere. It's so tight in that pack, and there's so many teams that have been inconsistent, like we are as well. So this season is, for me, put it to the back of our minds, get it sorted, and then if it still happens next season, I think that will be when I start to really question stuff and get angry. Because if we're not putting our stamp on stuff, or Hertzler's stamp on games at that point, then you start to ask questions, as you say, Aaron, about, is he the right man? Can he take us forward? Can he get these players to believe in a philosophy of football as to how he wants to play? So I've put my bum on the fence, and I've got a few splinters, and I'm sort of like thinking about getting off, but I'm still on the fence.
I feel like the key thing is, though, I don't mind losing, but it's a way to lose. And I feel like we had that against Palace, had that yesterday. Like, it just wasn't a before. I don't care if we run our arse off, like we tried everything, but it just wasn't our day. Like, you know, we had 30 or 40 shots on target. Like, we just could not score. All right, cool. Finishing needs to be better. But we at least actually gave us something to actually go, do you know what? At least the boys gave it their all. None of that yesterday. Really. Like, don't get me wrong. I mean, none of us could play 90 minutes in the Premier League. But you would still think you'd give a bit more than what they gave yesterday. Kind of vibe.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, you know, there didn't seem to be really any fight. The most passion and fight I saw was at the end of the game. It's bizarre. like you'd want that sort of fight and passion during the game, where it just it's an odd one. It's an odd one. I just don't really know where we go from here. Like I said, he's not going to get sacked. We'll be with him until he either resigns or Bloom does actually sack him. He's not going to get anywhere time soon, I don't think, personally, because that's not the type of club we are. We're not a Chelsea. We're not United, who would just sack a manager because they've had 8 or 9 bad results in a row. But there has to be some sort of questions. I'm not saying they should be asked now. I'm just saying that in the end, there has to be some sort of questions at the end of the season where we go, you know, if we miss out in Europe by, for example, by 6 or 7 points, well, where can we pick those up then? Wolves, Leicester, Southampton. There we go, done. Exactly, there we are. So there's 12 points. And it sounds not 12 points because we drew Ipswich, but you know what I mean. It's a principle thing. Like after every season, there should be a team meeting anyway, like board meeting where we go, where did it go wrong this year? What can we improve on this year? There'll be points that I'm certain Bloom and Barber will be pissed off about. That's happened this year. I have no doubt in that. What they are, I couldn't really tell you, but there has to be certain points.
And I think some people have sorry, Aaron. Some people mentioned in the comments about like injuries, and I do agree. But yesterday we had pretty much a full strength 11 available to us. We didn't do
and Ferdy as well. I think he's been a big miss.
Yeah,
I feel like he could have been. I feel if these are injuries are part and parcel of football, it happens. It's a bit like Jesus Christ. It's like, do we ever get a break? Like last year, I could accept to a certain degree because of Europe, because of extra games, etc. That's going to happen. Not a lot of recovery time in between games, blah 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 blah. This year, there hasn't really been any excuse for players getting injured. Obviously, injuries can happen any time. Like that's just part and parcel of life. But we've had 28 players? Was it out? I've read on it, something on those lines.
Yeah,
during the course of the season, that's a lot. Like, right, they could be like 1 week out, 2 weeks out, or whatever, but it's still an injury that we could have quite easily, could gone without. Like Hinchwood he would have been started. What was 14 games he missed or 11? I know it's been a while.
Yeah.
He would have been a massive part of this team, I would imagine. Ferdy, massive part of this team. I think there's certain certain things where you can't just blame Hertzler. Injuries haven't helped. I don't want to be the guy who goes, oh, we're not going to get Europe because of injuries. No, we're not going to get Europe because we can't see out games. We haven't got a plan B, etc., etc., etc. Injuries is part of that, but it's not the sole reason.
Yeah, I agree. Just really quickly, I know the guys have been chatting about in the comments as well. Yes, we haven't lost that many games, but again, one of my cruxes, Aaron, you've just mentioned, it's the drop in points from winning positions that has really hurt us this season. Really hurt us. Game management has not been very good. But we're going to just end the podcast then, guys. We'll talk real quickly about transfers. Of course, we are still in the last throes of the January transfer window. Posy, you've mentioned the Derby defender cash-in, who Derby fans seem to believe said his goodbyes to them. Was it yesterday in their game there? A defender, Joe. I know the club have chased him for a while. I don't know much about the lad. But it'll be nice to have some defensive reinforcements with Igor out, Webster injury prone, Dunk sort of nursing injuries, and how Van Hecker is still going. I have no idea.
Yeah, I think if you're asking a player to make the step up from Championship to the Premier League and come in and be an option, I think might be a bit too much to ask all of a sudden. But it's going to be nice to have an option. Obviously, if he's been on our radar for a while, he's clearly a good player. So yeah, I'm all for it. So we'll see if he comes in and if he can step up.
Let's certainly hope so. Better than no disrespect to the lad, of course.
I know where you're going with this as well.
It's like we've been putting McConville on the bench.
Yeah.
We clearly need someone who's got a bit more experience. I do agree with you, Joe. It is a bigger step up, and we're seeing it more and more. I mean, last year the 3 promoted sides went straight back down. This season looks like that's probably going to happen as well. So yeah, big monumental gap between the 2 divisions. But when you're playing McConville, or so not playing McConville, when he's on the bench as your, substitute defender.
I feel that's knock him a little bit. I think he's looked really good for the under 23s. and I thought he looked pretty comfortable when he came on against Norwich. Like, I think there's a player there. There's 100% a player there, but maybe not yet.
Agreed.
Maybe not yet.
Yeah, I do. I'm glad you mentioned Norwich because I don't want to do him a disservice because he did, he looked pretty handy when he came on against Norwich, did what he needed to do. But obviously, the best thing for his development is to, probably go out on a loan or stick with the other 23s for a bit and he doesn't need the pressure of, playing in the Premier League at this moment. And then the last one I want to talk about is a comment Michael made. He said about we have loads of attackers, but we don't have many strikers. Of course, Danny Welbeck is getting a bit long in the tooth, as they say. Evan Ferguson, the will he won't they. It's getting a bit boring now. But we have been linked to a striker whose name I'm going to butcher. So please, I apologize. It is, I believe he's Greek, the striker Stefanos Tsimiz. Let's just call him Stefanos, Greek Steph or Greek Steve. We've been linked to this lad, as have Liverpool. It's nice. I don't know anything about him. I'm not going to pretend I do because I would look a bit silly. But it is nice to see that the club have are looking at this, bringing in another striker. I think that we've discussed on the podcast before, João Pedro, very good in a number 10 or a false 9, but he is not an out-and-out British number 9 like perhaps Welbeck and Ferguson are. So it's nice to see, Aaron, that the club might be addressing a potential weakness in the squad. What do you make of being linked to a striker?
Until it happens, I don't believe it.
That's
simple as that. What's the old saying? I won't believe it until he's holding the shirt. Because it's just, I don't want to get my hopes up. Oh, he's going to be our saviour, blah, 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 blah. It never happens. He goes to Liverpool. He'll score, 40 goals next season, probably knowing our luck. Like, we were linked with the youngster who went to City, the centre half. No one heard of him until we put a bid in for him, and all of a sudden he's gone to City. Like, everyone was like, "Oh no, this guy's going to be like the next Rolls Royce." Blah blah blah. 48 hours later, City are putting a bid in for him. It's like, oh great. Like, people are starting to figure out what our motto is.
Yeah,
we go to South America. We go, he looks half decent. Let's bring him in. Oh no, and another coach has poached him.
I thought you were going to go down the lines of, what's that? You want 25 million? We'll give you 20 million and a quick.
Yeah. Very Arsene Wenger of us. Very Arsene Wenger of us.
Yeah. I just hope that we don't, do what we normally do, put in a low ball bid, and then Liverpool come along and just pay what the club want, and then we're left going, maybe we should have just paid. We could have had an extra player. Joe, look, we've got a comment about bringing back Victor Gyökeres. Isn't that nice?
Lovely. Great.
Joe,
I love comments about Victor Gyökeres. No, what I hate is the comparisons to him and Connolly. That's what I really hate.
Aaron Connolly's gone to Millwall.
He missed a
penalty. Congratulations. Congratulations to him.
Good luck to him. I think Connolly unfortunately went down a pretty shit path after his time down here. I felt like that interview he did at Sunderland, I thought was very open and very honest about it. Kind of rated it for that, and it would explain an awful lot. To be honest, it explains an awful lot. So, I mean, as a footballer, I don't think it's particularly great. I think like the Championship is probably a little bit even. I don't think he's a Championship type of player, really. I would say he's more of a League One kind of player. Yeah, I mean, Gyökeres, no one knew the rise he was going to have. Let's be real. Like, people say, oh, he's one that fell through the cracks. Potentially, but without that move to Coventry, he wouldn't have got his confidence, etc., etc. Scoring goals for fun, goes out to Sporting. Nobody expecting to do well out there, like as well as he has done. And I mean, here we are, and he's one of the most hot properties in Europe. And good luck to him. I think he's a fantastic striker. But people who compare the two are just idiots. I agree with Joe. Really. They're just two different types of players. One, I think Connolly was better than Gyökeres at the time. It hasn't worked out. For one, it has worked out for the other. That's his life.
Very good. I bet Joe's going, Loves that. Just quickly back to Stefanos. Yeah, it's about time we had a Greek player in the squad. I can't remember a Greek player. Was Frutos?
Alexis Nicholas. No, he was Cypriot. He was Cypriot.
Yeah.
Frutos. Was he Greek?
I was about to say, wasn't Frutos Greek? This is a name from the With Dean Years kids. Pretty obscure one at that. So answer on a postcard. Aaron's about to find it out. So yeah, it's about time we had another Greek player, or a Greek player. So yeah, let's hope that we can get a bit of business done. Another number 9 would be really beneficial, considering the lightness of our attack, because you just never know when Danny Welbeck's going to get injured again.
Interesting. We were completely wrong.
Well, there you go. Not the first time that's happened, and it won't be the last. We've hit 90 minutes. That's as long as a game of football. So congratulations if you've made it this far. We've tried to sort of...
Did you score a goal during this time? If you have, send your CV to Fabian Hertzler.
To be fair, it's probably more entertaining than watching what we watched yesterday.
Exactly. Someone just put in the thing, Baldock. I thought he was born in... Well, I know he's Greek. He qualifies for Greek nationality through a grandparent, I believe.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure
technically that is correct. We're going for a technicality.
Yes, the infamous Greek name Baldock. But yes, I see your point. So yeah, thank you for sticking in with us for 90 minutes. Hopefully, it wasn't as painful reliving it with us as the actual time itself in the game yesterday. And there was no time wasting. And it only took me 52 minutes to get really cross about it all. So there you go. Thank you to Joe and Aaron for joining me this evening. And thank you to all of those who have caught us live, dropped comments in, dropped our questions in. Hopefully you've enjoyed your time with us. If you're catching this on the YouTube, that makes me sound like such
on the YouTube back in my day.
If you are catching us on the YouTube, please drop us a comment. Let us know your thoughts on what you felt about the game. Did you disagree with us about the VAR call for the penalty? Did you feel that we played better in the second half? Let us know. And of course, don't forget all that good stuff like, giving us a like, a share, and a subscribe on all of your socials, regardless of which one it is. Come and hang out with us and join these conversations on a weekly basis. So all that's left is for me to say is wherever you may be, whenever you may be, we'll see you next time. Take care now. Bye-bye.